Okay, this is the Minn Kota Ulterra 36 volt trim unit disassembly video. This is a basic disassembly, which means you could access most parts within the unit itself. In this particular case, we're going to be doing a rebuild of the worm gear for the belt and the trim belt. I was having problems with this unit. The issue was it would stall on deploy. It was at the point where it didn't want to come out for the first 6 inches and the motor would turn off and reset. I did discover by pushing the shaft when it was deploying that it was only in the first 6 inches. Lots of possible issues, belts, lubrication, etc, etc. It was none of those. So in this video we'll be showing you how to replace those particular parts and also getting this unit apart and back together in one piece. Alright, so it starts with the Phillips head screws on the top. Now, if you suspect you're having issues with the shaft deploying, you could check this whilst the trim unit is still on the shaft, assembled on the boat, and the evidence of that will become clear once we remove this top cover. Okay. So we have the trim belt, the worm gear cluster and pulley assembly. Now if you suspect the same problem I was having, what you're going to see is you're going to see a lot of black build up around here. I have previously disassembled this unit and cleaned it, so you're not going to see it in this instance, but you would see a lot of black debris around here, and you also will see on the back of your trim unit top cover, black area there. Now what's happening is this worm gear cluster pulley assembly is moving up and down. You can't see it here because the belt's tight, but you would see it with the black debris around here and also on the cover. If you're getting that, what's happening is when this deploys, this pulley raises up, hits the cover, jams the belt. It only happens one way and it only happens on deploy. So when you deploy, this comes up, hits the top of the cover, jams the belt, and you're stuffed. So first thing, we will release the belt tension here. That's done in 2 steps. Allen key in here, and then Allen key up here. We then loosen the motor shaft assembly. That belt's now clear and free, so we can remove the belt. Okay, now you can see what's happening. This pulley, when it's free, it's moving up and down. So to get to that, we leave the motor in place. If you needed to access your motor, replace the motor, you do it by removing this plate. Motor's mounted underneath. You'd replace that. So to get into the unit itself, quite easy. 4 screws on the side. Okay, so now there is a bit of a trick to getting this unit apart. You don't just want to yank it apart because there's wires crossing over from one section to the other. and the motherboard's in there, so you want to have a bit of control of what's going on. So this is what I do. So the main joins are in these two wires up here. You want to keep that section together, so I flip it over, just give it a little bit of a pry apart. Okay, now rather than just pulling it apart, you want to wiggle it gently. Make sure that motherboard's in there. Okay, and then you fold it down like so. Okay, so these are the wires that cross from one section to the other, so you don't want to muck around with those too much. Now, if we look at what we've got going on here, worm gear. It's moving up and down. This gear, the belt worm gear, is corroded, so I'm going to replace that at the same time. That's easily done. So at this point, if you had a belt in there, it would be assembled like so. And that's how you replace the belt. So you take the unit apart to this stage, remove this section, put your new belt in. That's going to be a lot easier than trying to thread it through. Okay, so in regards to the rest of the unit, we've got the motherboard there, the motor there, we've got the worm gear cluster pulley assembly there, and the worm gear for the belt. It's pretty simple. There's a sensor down here, we don't need to remove any of that. We've also got the spring pull latch here, and that's quite easily sorted. Spring just pops in there, and that just holds down there. You can leave that like it is for disassembly. In this case we're going to remove it just because it's going to get in the way of us working on this worm gear down here. So take off the C-clip. C-clip. This will then pop out like so. And now we can see what's happening. This C-clip in there wobbles up and down. That means this shaft can go up and down. So we've got a new one, got a new assembly, so that is solid. And all it is this piece here is wearing out, and that's what's happening in regards to that. So all we need to do to replace that is get the new shaft assembly. Now there's a thrust bearing in there. I'm going to grease this as I go. I'm going to get some grease into that thrust bearing. Going to use plenty of grease on this. Just going to grease the bits I can't access before. Insert this into here. Okay, so we've then got, this is a little bit tricky, our washer. It's on. C-clip. Okay, so now that gear is is a lot less restricted, it doesn't move up and down. Next, replace the worm gear for the belt. Okay, now this is where I want to get quite a bit of grease down into that worm gear assembly. Good. Perfect. Right, so that's the worm gear replaced and the belt gear. Okay, now to reassemble the unit, obviously we're going to want our belt to be in there, so we will thread that in here. Sits in there nicely. Okay, just grease on the end of that shaft. Alright. So to get the unit back together, it's the same way we did it when we took it apart. We want to keep these wires going through these channels. They connect from one end to the other, so we're going to flip it together from the bottom up. Firstly, pop the spring back in for the release mechanism there. It just fits into a little plastic recess there. If you push that down, it will sit there while you reassemble this, but you just need to be careful with it. So that's what we do. This back up here like this, line up the motherboard, just make sure that those wires are clear in the channels, and then it all just slots together nicely like that. Okay, that's all good, so it's all compact together. Just put our 4 screws holding the unit together. Just have a final tighten on those screws. Right, so belt's through, this plate is in place in the notches, the release mechanism works, flip it over, and now we have to put the trim pulley belt on, so that's quite easily done. Just slip it over here and over the belt. Now there's a procedure to tightening this up. As you can see, the belt is loose and that goes as so. Turn this Allen screw here, you can see the belt move, tighten up when I do that. Get it to the tension that you want. It should be tight but not too tight. And then tighten up your motor mount screws. 1, 2, 3. Okay, so that is good tension on that. Just secure the motor screws. And then final step is just to lock that Allen key up there. Okay, so very easily done. Just use reference to the internals if you need to, if you're taking this apart, or take your own photos. Last piece of the puzzle is just to put the gasket that's nicely seated on there, and then the trim unit cover itself, and once again make sure that the cover is fitting neatly into the seals. They should go up and down, so nothing should be crimped. Good. Unit just covers down. I hope you guys find this video helpful. One of these units, New Zealand dollars, is about $700. I did get the worm gear cluster pulley assembly and the worm gear for the belt. They were reconditioned parts from Northland Marine, and they cost $20, and shipping to New Zealand was about $80, so $100 to refurbish this unit. I have got another one on the boat that I did buy as a backup, so good to know that I've got a spare here if I need it, and she's ready to rock and roll. Okay, and there it is, guys. That's the trim top unit put on. Pieces, assemblies back in order. Belt goes through, ready for assembly back on the shaft.